What if it's not about a building? What if it's not about stained glass or steeples? What if it's about just Jesus?
I want to start this one with a callback. Does everybody remember when Savannah said she flipped somebody off driving?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course you do. I want you to know I'm 47 days finger free.
That's good.
Just kidding. I don't know the days, but I haven't done it since. I haven't done it since.
Well,
okay.
And I bring it up for a reason.
So it's like 3 days.
Probably.
Since my last instance.
3 days. I'm just kidding.
But I do bring it up for a reason.
Okay.
Did you divert God's plan, or was that part of God's plan, or was that part of free will? Is God's plan and free will, do they go together, or can your free will mess up God's plan? And we'll break that down as we go.
Is it the same thing?
I don't know.
When you get Jesus in your life, you don't have a free will.
Whoa, hold on. No, but like every bad decision I make as a Christian, can I just say, oh, that's God's plan, sorry?
No.
Or is that not Christian-like of me?
Right. So, like, when you do something like that, it's more of like, am I doing this after the flesh? Or am I submitting to what God wants?
Right. But every time I do that, am I messing up God's plan? Like, do I have a great plan? And then every time I mess up a little bit, it's like, oh, it's not going to be as good this time.
I like this.
Well,
so was it God's plan for me to give that guy the finger, for me to yet tell about the story about it on a podcast?
That's what I'm asking.
To help someone else.
I know the Bible says the person that knows to do good and does it not, to them it is sin. So here's the more of a way to look at it. Did you do right and good? Absolutely not. But does the Bible say all things work together for good? It's like we said today. We can't, if you fall, you fall. God can control how you land. Like, you may have done something wrong, but God can bring good out of it.
Yeah, I think
God used that.
I could tell James, I know you're listening. I kept my birdie tucked into its little cage.
Yeah.
Well, I've got Proverbs 19:21 pulled up here. It says, you can make many plans, but the Lord's purpose will prevail. So that makes it sound like it's the big plan's still going to happen, no matter how you do the little things.
I think it's like you got 900 things you could probably do wrong that God wasn't planning for, but God has a rerouting, a recalculation plan that can make it good and lead back to where you need to be.
Just like the GPS, no matter where you're going, it says recalculating.
Yeah. U-turn.
Yep.
You're still going to get to the final destination.
Yep. Yes. If you do have Jesus in your life, you are working that relationship. Yes.
All right. So hold on. Let's back up a little bit. You'd mentioned that once you become a Christian, God's plan kicks in. But I've said the whole time that God's plan was for me to meet you at a basketball and for me to become a Christian. I look at that as God's plan from the get-go. But is that true, or is that just coincidence and then it becomes God's plan once it all starts coming together?
It could have been God's plan. It could have been God kind of keeping you stashed away.
Yeah. Like,
you know what I mean?
The guy they throw in the fourth quarter at the last play, right?
Absolutely. Like,
maybe you were God's plan for Corey. So maybe it wasn't for you, but
maybe I'm a part of your master plan. So like those things, I don't know that we can even find those things. Like, how does that work?
We can't 100% answer those things, but we can give our thoughts for the fact of when you absolutely do something wrong, God is not for that. But can God use it and turn it around and turn the tables and get you back?
And that's the thing. Like right there, when we met, if I'd have pulled a Savannah and gave you the finger
yes,
and walked off and walked off.
I love that.
Would that have detailed it, or would God's plan have brought us back together at some point in time? I don't know.
God is powerful enough to do that. God is powerful enough to hit you in a certain way because you're so independent. You're like, buddy, one wrong move, one wrong word, one wrong forceful effort on my part, you're out.
And that's it. That's what I'm wondering. And can we do free will enough to screw up God's plan?
And
now I can never look away from the GPS scenario. Like, that is genius because I can make a wrong turn and get rerouted. But how many wrong turns am I going to make until it's just not going to calculate anymore?
I like to think about it like this. That's beautiful. It's GPS, God's positioning system. I like that.
But your destination, your arrival time keeps getting delayed, right? No matter every time you get recalculated.
That's right.
But that could be God's plan.
It's got to be. But that's what we're trying to figure out. Is there a blueprint that's unchanged and we just think we have free will? Or is it a constantly evolving plan that's fluid? And
my point is, when I said you don't have a free will, you have a will to call on God and to call or not to call on God. But once you get God, you may try to go against the plan, like Jonah. But what happened to Jonah? You know?
Followed up.
First he got, what do you do again? We need to put that on a button. It's like, he was like, I'm the problem. I know I'm running from God. Throw me off. And even if he wouldn't have said that, what if they had just thrown him off because they knew that he was foreign to them and he was a problem, they was having issues? Either way, he got off their boat. God prepared a fish to give him a recalculation plan. And what started now God has a way of prolonging it, because that fish took him to the bottoms of the ocean and wrapped him in seaweed. And he said, from the belly of hell, I cried out. And so God has a way in the recalculation plan and the U-turn to get you as low as you can go and as miserable as you can be. So when he does release you, you're like a slingshot running for his direction.
Man, it's funny you say that. So that brings up Isaiah 46:10. Only I can tell the future before it happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish. I mean, that sounds like he's already got it planned out. Just where you go in the meantime to get there. That's in Isaiah.
But who's saying that? Isaiah?
Read it again.
Well, I'm assuming he's speaking for God.
Yeah.
But are you asking who wrote the book?
No, that's like, what she was at. She was saying, is Isaiah saying that, or is God
Isaiah's not the all-powerful.
Yeah. I didn't hear that part.
So read it again.
Sorry. Okay.
That was funny because Steve was
I was like, what are you asking?
Yeah.
I'm asking, is he speaking in first person or third?
I am not a theologian. I can read the verse.
But
let me read this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isaiah 46. Only I can tell the future before it even happens.
Do you see where my confusion was there?
Yes.
But that happens often in the Old Testament.
But you see that is God speaking through Isaiah, because God is a prophet, or Isaiah is a prophet, and many times God spoke through the prophet. In this situation, this is God speaking.
You know what? Let me back up one verse, Savannah. For I alone am God. I am God, and there is none like me. See? Only I can tell the future before it even happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish.
Thank you. I needed context.
But the minute he said, I can tell the future before it happens, like, we know that's not Isaiah.
What if God gave him that power? I don't know.
He does give him a prophetical power, and you're right. And even back in the day before a prophet, it was called a seer.
Yeah.
And that's what prophets do. They see the future, but the Bible says God, who at different times spoke to the fathers by the prophets. He spoke through the prophets. And so the things that Isaiah was able to see and do was all God doing it through him. So But that does clear that up, and that is a beautiful word, because God, his eyes are in every place, beholding the good and the evil. And it's like Joseph said, and we've said it many times, I know you meant evil. I know you meant it evil when you threw me in that pit. I know that it looked evil when I flipped that bird. I know that looks evil, but I'm going to work this out to be a blessing. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to turn you around and get you back in the spot. Like, this is what grace is about. Like, when we fall, the enemy would love for us to stay down exactly where we fell. Like, you could have maybe went into just a horrible state of mind and said, oh, I should have never done that. And then never got over it and walked away from everything. I think it would take more of than a bird to do that, but you could. Any of us could. But God is so gracious, and one of the secret weapons that God has through us, once we choose Him, is that we're able to get back up where we fell. Like, we're able to continue on God's plan. In God's plan, it may have a little detour. Mm-hmm. It may have a little U-turn. It may have a little recalculation. But God is so powerful, and He sees the roads, and He sees the future, and He sees the things that were going to happen in our lives as we go along, and He sees them before we do. So yes, He is able to turn those things around.
And that makes me think of the people that are in prison. How many people find Jesus in prison? I think it's astronomically high amount.
Absolutely.
Wow, yeah.
But how many of those think, man, He put me here, He led me here just so I can find Him?
And to go along with that, like, you think about people that are on the top of the world and they've got the riches, or they're celebrities, and or all this, but then they get to an old age. They know that time is running out, and then they start thinking spiritually.
Yep.
And so it's the same thing. It's like, man, and some of these people are in prison for the rest of their lives. Like, I need to know what's happening after I die.
But they had to get there to get there.
Hit rock bottom, and make sure that you get introduced to the rock when you get to the bottom.
So what's your thoughts on what's the difference of God knowing something's going to happen or God making it happen through us? Does that make sense?
I think He's doing both.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we are stubborn.
What if I'm driving and I think, you know what, I'm going to flip this person off. Then I think, wait a minute.
Let that die,
wait a minute. What if that's God's plan? What if I'm supposed to flip them off? Like, I almost pump myself up thinking I need to. And I know that's not the right mindset, but we could almost do that with anything if we're not careful.
I mean, it's never like the Old Testament. It's never an eye for an eye. That's not the way it works. We're never saying, I'm going to get vengeance on this person.
And of course, that's a bad scenario. But what if it's just something like, it could be something as small as maybe I'm supposed to talk to these people about Jesus, or maybe I'm not supposed to. I don't know. And those are the things that just bring up the constant questions.
That is a greater question right there, because many times there's people that just don't have an issue with talking to anybody, especially when they become Christians. So they're just like, I'll talk to every person that I come in contact with. And I've talked to a lot of people and them say, man, I talked to this person, I talked to that person, I tried to share Jesus with this person, and they totally just cut me off and didn't even talk to me. And I heard one person say, God spoke to them and said, I'm not telling you to talk to everybody. I'm telling you certain people at certain times that I want you to speak. And you have to learn when that is. And if you talk when I'm not saying talk, it ain't happening. Mm-hmm. I got to be drawing that person with my spirit, working on the other end in order for you to make an impact in their life. If I'm not dealing with that person, then you ain't going to deal with that person. You ain't going to have. That's why Jesus said, cast your net on the other side. Same thing. He said, we've been casting a net all night.
Mm.
We've been fishing all night in these waters. No, you didn't cast it there. And you just are casting wherever you want to because this is what you've always done.
Yep.
But I'm in the scenario now and you're going to do something different or it's not going to work.
I like to think that God is not going to make me do bad things to
He's not.
teach me a lesson, that he's only going to guide me to the right and proper things, but I'm going to get off path occasionally.
But
That's
now,
funny you mentioned that, Corey. I want to bring this up real quick.
Yeah,
Proverbs 16:9. It says, "We make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps."
absolutely.
See, I was correct. Was that prophetic?
Yes, it could have been.
That was great.
And
Yep.
he does know. And it's like you could end up in a dark alley somewhere and be very scared and uncomfortable. And it may look awful. But there might be a person that God's leading you to. That's more of how God works. Not that you're going to lose your temper and go off on somebody. But now I will say this. There are scenarios to where God will bring us out of our comfort zone to talk with people or address people or approach people in a way that maybe we never have and maybe we didn't even think was the right way. But in God's eyes, it was the right way because it was the only way that we could reach that person. And so you will take a lot of turns in life that you do not understand, like Joseph ending up in prison. You will fall in a lot of ways when you feel like you are absolutely soaring above the mountains. But you need to understand that God is always with you. And he is going to work it together for your good. And he's going to bring you back every single time to the place that he needs you to be, to where you are on the journey going in the direction that he is leading you in his will and with his grace every single time. You just got to get comfortable at being uncomfortable. Be blessed.